We have seen this year, even before COVID-19 hit, lots of companies exploring managed IT, outsourcing various aspects of their IT organizations, some parts of it, some the whole thing. And we've seen that really accelerate in a huge way because of COVID-19. Because we have so many companies now entering that stage where maybe they haven't done it before or exploring it for the first time, let's talk a little bit about what that journey looks like. Brian, you're participating in a lot of these meetings when partners are bringing opportunities to Netrio. Can you walk us through what those first couple meetings look like in determining if a end user customer and enterprise is right for taking advantage of managed IT?
So I think it kind of starts at a high level with the strategic direction the organization would like to take. So in many cases, that conversation is around, there's so many demands on the executive leadership in IT today. They're trying to shift and be a little more strategically focused on what helps them grow the business or enable the business from a technology perspective, rather than supporting desktops and end users and devices across the landscape of the network. So that's what really starts the conversation.
What do we need to make sure we get right, while we're in that qualifying stage?
It's really that big picture of what the organization looks like, on paper. So, how many branch offices do you have? How many employees do you have? What types of applications are you consuming? Where are those applications that are consumed hosted? Are they in the cloud? Are they on-prem? Are they elsewhere? Understanding the line of business applications that are in play. So, how are you running your business from, everything from sales and CRM to order fulfillment or service fulfillment or, whatever it is your job role is. You want to take into consideration any compliancy requirements. So PCI, HIPAA, high trust, anything that's in play there, and how that might affect, what the end user's computing environment might look and feel like. In some cases, the corporation may not be allowed to use a technology like a VPN, and they may require a VDI or some type of secure hosting environment. So we need to really understand kind of how they use technology on a daily basis, gain a visual representation of that. So what does the network topology look like? What are the plans for changes or evolution of that technology through digital transformation? How they're consuming every piece of technology that helps them conduct business. So I'd say everything from the edge of the network, all the way to the desktop and the end user, the productivity users are doing. Actually, I'd say it's more common that they don't have a complete set of documentation than it is that they do. So one of the advantages, and I always explain this to customers as we're a little ways into it, but one of the advantages of outsourcing all of your managed IT solutions is that it forces you to go through that process of documenting what's in place. And it forces you to also make decisions, sometimes strategically, about why those systems are the way they are and where you want them to be future state. So it kind of forces you to deal with current state and then guides you towards where you want to be future state. And I'd say one of the areas that we always find deficiencies in, always, every case, no matter how buttoned up an organization is the process by which, and think about this for a minute, how important this can be to an organization's security posture, is end user onboarding and offboarding. So what happens when a user is brought into the organization with a specific job function or specific job role, and what systems does that job role mandate that they have access to, and then at what levels, right? There's tiers of permissions within applications. You want to make sure you get that right. It's an important aspect for offboarding as well, because you want to make sure that you close all those security holes that you opened during the onboarding process so that you get the organization tightened back up once that user has left the organization.
What are some of the most impactful? So that's a big impactful area. What are some other impactful areas where you see it, immediately, man, we're going to help them get to a much better outcome?
I'd say patch management is probably the next biggest outlier. And the problem is, organizations that are, that don't have someone dedicated to this role, it's a shared responsibility, sometimes among multiple people. Sometimes if it's a single IT person running the whole organization, they simply don't have time for it. And so, the process of updating operating systems and third-party software is not perfect on its own. And so you really need to have an RMM tool or some type of a software asset inventory tool that allows you to go out, once you've deployed patches, actually go out and verify that the patch is deployed. That's one of the things we do a little differently here with Netrio as an MSP than I've seen with some other MSPs. And so one of the processes that we run after our maintenance windows for patching, following day, we have engineering go and pull a patch evaluation report. And that goes out and assesses how successful that patch process was. And then that allows us to go out and make corrections for any systems that were missed or maybe offline. We make arrangements to get those systems up to the current patch levels and revisions as part of that process. From a security posture, the onboarding, offboarding takes care of a lot of the gaps that we see. So one of the things that we do when we enter into an engagement is we have a tool that we run that provides a network and security assessment against the client's environment. So what this does is it goes in, it interrogates your directory service and says, give me a list of all the user accounts, all the security groups, all of the systems, and everything that's involved in the landscape of my IT organization. And what we find a lot of times is that there are users that still exist in the system that were there 3 years ago, still have accounts that are active. They may have changed their password at some point, or in some cases you see passwords that set to never expire. So those are security problems long term. You have to have good password policies in place. You have to have passwords that expire frequently, set password complexities. So I'm requiring more than 8 digits. I'm requiring alphanumeric, possibly symbols, those types of things in place. So really, most of the time we see in a well-managed IT organization, those things are buttoned up and tight.